Dam, dalilam, vacarme, s'en va dans l'oubli éternel. Et Gustave, dom guardiam, dilim, dididididim, lute sera dolilom, seram.
You don't need this video to tell you that Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a good game. The market has already proclaimed it to be one of the best games of the year so far. Critic scores are excellent, user reviews are overwhelmingly positive, and it has sold millions of copies since its launch in late April. And that's your summary right there. This is an excellent game that is definitely worth a try if you haven't been able to play it yet. It's available on PC and Xbox Game Pass, and this is one of those games that is definitely worth buying at full price. Now on to the review, which is mostly me praising the game non-stop. There will be some mild spoilers, and while I do talk a bit about the entire game, I won't show anything outside of the first act.
Hey, you said it, not me.
One of the reasons everyone is gushing about this game is its extremely well narrated story. Sure, there are a few loopholes in it, just like in any other extremely well narrated story, but your first time experiencing the story will most likely be so engaging that you won't worry about the loopholes until later. And just like a lot of well narrated stories, there are twists here that most people will never see coming. Even without those twists, however, this game has a very interesting premise. On a magical island called Lumiere, a paintress paints a giant number on a monolith each year. On that day, anyone whose age is equal to or more than that number is erased, just like the Thanos snap from the Avengers movies. Except here, it is at a much slower pace and has an age related restriction. This yearly erasure, called a gommage, has been happening for more than 60 years, and the people of that island have learned how to live with it. They prepare for the yearly gommage event with, I won't say festival, but it's definitely a formal event. After the erasure happens, the people of the island get together and send an expedition consisting of their oldest folks who try to stop the paintress from repeating her actions next year. The bad news is that none of the expeditions sent so far were successful, and yet the people of Lumiere keep trying because what else can they do? When the game starts, the number on the monolith is 33. So the expedition that sets out is called Expedition 33, and it consists mostly of people who are aged 32, that is, those who are scheduled for erasure next year unless they stop the paintress. One exception is a young girl called Mael, who isn't even an adult yet, but still sets off on Expedition 33 in order to accompany her foster brother Gustav, whose age is 32. She wants to either help save his life by defeating the paintress or spend the last moments of their lives together, assuming they fail the mission. All this takes some time to set up, and the start of the game might feel a bit slow, but it is very much worth it because all these characters are written quite well. As a reminder, this is a world full of magic, and nearly everyone in the expedition can handle some sort of magical abilities. The expedition reaches the Paintress's island, and that's when the pace of the story picks up rapidly. I won't spoil anything else, but expect a lot of dark, emotional moments and even humor in some unexpected places. It took me almost 20 hours to reach the end of my first playthrough, and that was because I played this game like I usually do for my reviews. I stuck to the main storyline and ignored all the side objectives. However, around halfway through the game, I knew that as soon as the review was done, I would be starting a fresh save file because this game has quite a lot to explore in terms of both story and gameplay. Clair Obscur is a turn based RPG, and sadly, that will keep away a lot of people who never play turn based games. Because by definition, they are meant to be relatively slower than regular action games, so that you can take your time and think about your next move. However, modern turn based games like Metaphor Refantatio or Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth have found ways to make the playstyle more interesting and engaging. Clair Obscur brings its own changes to the formula, and it borrows elements from the Souls-like genre, which actually scares away many gamers. Parrying and dodging enemy attacks play a huge role in Clair Obscur's combat. Usually in turn-based games, you would do something like apply a defense buff or put up a shield and just sit back and wait for the enemy to attack. Here, however, you need to be actively engaged in combat to avoid enemy attacks. Using a combination of parry, dodge, and jump mechanics, you can effectively nullify any damage from the enemy. And when it's your turn to attack, well, that's where this game turns into an addictive power fantasy. Using a combination of two skill based systems called Pictos and Lumina, you can find special skills throughout the world that you can equip to one character, and after 4 battles, that skill can be equipped to all characters in your party. This allows you to try and test out a variety of builds with all members of the party. And of course, the online community has been quick to highlight some insanely strong builds that break the game, one of which was so extreme that the developer quickly released a patch to tone it down. All of this comes much later in the game though. For your first playthrough, while you're still leveling up, a lot of the bosses will make you sweat quite a lot. But if you stick to it, the combat can feel quite rewarding. I usually prefer to breeze through games on the easiest difficulty setting, and even I enjoyed spending between 15 to 30 minutes per boss learning their attack patterns, failing a few times, and then emerging victorious eventually. The bosses in the main story are plenty powerful, but the strongest bosses are actually found outside of the main story. I will admit I haven't defeated some of them yet, but I plan on going back and taking on the remaining challenges in my New Game Plus run. One last thing I have to say about the combat is that it will surprise those who have stayed away from turn based games till now, and it will disappoint hardcore fans of the traditional turn based playstyle. Due to the constant need to pay attention and parry or dodge at the right time, this modified playstyle is certainly not something you can play in a relaxing manner. Apart from the parry dodge system, another feature that is inspired from Souls like games is the rest mechanic. Here, you can approach flags planted by previous expeditions and rest there to completely heal your party. In exchange, all minor enemies in the areas that you may have already killed get respawned. It's a neat risk reward mechanic that is important in the early hours of the game, where almost any enemy can kill you in a few hits. There's also a camp feature that is available to you only when you are in a hub area known as the continent. In the camp, you can talk to your companions and build a relationship with them. As you progress through these relationship levels, your companions will give you useful items to help you on your journey. This hub area, the continent, is the only place where you are allowed to use a map. Once you beat the story, the hub turns into an open world, allowing you to visit all the places from the story as well as discover new dungeons and arenas. The story levels are closed areas where you don't have any map markers and are encouraged to explore on your own. You can choose to skip most of the fights in these areas, but fighting everyone and everything is highly recommended as you will level up faster and discover unique skills through Pictos. The gameplay loop involves going to a new area, exploring all that you can, and then beating the final boss of that area to progress in the story. The final bosses are no joke during your first run, and are some of the most memorable fights of the game. Exploring the levels will also tell you the many stories of the previous expeditions, detailing how far they were able to progress before failing. The expedition flags, where you also rest, will give you a clue as to how far an expedition was able to reach. Once you beat the final boss, you are given the option to start a new game plus, which lets you level up faster and take on more challenging bosses. There's an entire end game for which many YouTubers have already put up guides, and for once, I'm signing up for it right away instead of proceeding to my next game. It's rare that a game gets both story and gameplay right, and Clair Obscur nails them both equally well.
I saw this death.
During the initial reveal, the developer mentioned that their goal was to create a turn based RPG with high quality visuals. They have achieved that goal and set a new standard for what we can expect in terms of visuals for turn based games. Sure, if I had to nitpick,
You
I
look
would
tense.
point out that there are some signs that this is the studio's first game, as there are a few
I know what you
visual
mean.
bugs and the
Let's look
lip
through it.
sync feels off in a few places. But I
Come
noticed
on,
these
we're
only in
making
the
time.
first hour of the game.
Can't go and sit
After that,
safely on
the sheer
some road
beauty
in
of the
town.
environments and the particle effects during the boss fights completely made me forget about these
Present
tiny
watching.
issues. Like
Always
most
handy.
console players, I usually prefer to
Don't
play on
really
performance
understand.
mode, which sacrifices a bit of the visual quality to
Hmm.
offer a steady 60 FPS. For
Clearly
this
need
game,
a look
however,
over.
I used the default
Why not
quality
wait
mode
until tonight
setting
to say
because I
something?
wanted to see the best of what
A
this
bit
game had to
late,
offer.
isn't it?
Also, you don't really need 60 FPS for a turn based game. One level in particular, called Flying Waters, literally made me stop in my tracks and look around in surprise. It's essentially an underwater level, but you're still on the ground, which technically means the water is in the air, hence the name Flying Waters. Anyway, technicalities aside, just walking through that level was a wonderful experience. It was so good, in fact, that later levels in the game felt slightly less impressive in comparison. But when seen on their own, each level has its own artistic story to tell, and it was a joy
60
to discover what the next visual
everything to
surprise would be.
you know the commanders of every
The cinematics, of course, are all well produced, and this was
expedition
essential
68
because the story plays
got
such a
no
crucial role in the
problems.
game. Clair
And yet
Obscur
I
roughly
figured out
translates to
across
light and dark, and the cinematics routinely
this
switch
guy.
between brightly colored scenes and dark
Not
black and
easy.
white scenes to narrate the story.
Let's keep moving.
It's a nice touch that
Found a
really
pretty spot.
helps set the
My home
mood.
must be close by.
Now, coming to performance, this game was made using Unreal Engine, and it's become a stereotype to make fun of games that use this engine because they usually have performance issues, but it really is up to the developer to optimize performance. This game has been well optimized. It's probably one of the best performing Unreal Engine games of recent times. Technically, it is still considered to be a AA game, largely due to its price tag and the fact that it was made by just around 30 developers. But the visuals and the performance are on par with some of the best AAA games in the market, and in some cases, even exceeds them. This is another section where I continue to praise the game. But let me start with the nitpicking first because there's only one issue I wanted to highlight, and it has an easy fix. During combat, parrying the attacks depends on good timing, and a lot of bosses use sound cues to let you know that an attack is coming. In some cases, the accompanying music track can be so loud that you might miss some of these sound cues. Of course, the easiest solution is to go into the settings and reduce the music volume. Okay, with that small complaint done, let me return to praising the game. The music, which can be loud, is also phenomenal, and once again makes it hard to believe that this is not a AAA production. Using a combination of orchestral and electronic music, the The composer delivers quite a memorable soundtrack that's fit for a sci-fi fantasy setting. The sound effects for the different attacks, spells, and everything in between are pretty standard, but they fit in really well. I'm running out of adjectives to keep praising every element of the game, so for the voice acting, I'll simply say it was delivered remarkably well. There are a couple of big names behind two main characters, but I don't want to undermine the effort put in by the rest of the cast. Everyone played their part exceptionally well, and put together with the gorgeous cinematics, the player is in for a treat.
Thanks.
Let her body lie at the end of the world. Unable to paint another death. Let the stars no longer be hidden by her oppressive silhouette.
Alright, you're probably tired of listening to me praising this game non-stop, so I'll keep this section short. If you have usually stayed away from turn-based games, do yourself a favor and give this game a try. It's on PC and Xbox Game Pass, so if you're already a member, you just need to spare a bit of time. This is one of those titles where multiple people have reported buying the game after beating it through Game Pass as a gesture of supporting the developer. A link to the Steam store page can be found in the description. Thanks for watching.
Thanks to you. Expedition 33.